Back as always, exclusively on the YouTube channel, answering your listener questions. This week's question, just one, comes from Oliver in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Oliver asks, Brian, I notice you rarely cover sports or pop culture on your podcast. With so many people globally tuned into these topics, why don't you weave them into your discussions more often? Well, that sounds like a request. It sounds like a recommendation, Oliver. So thank you for that. And that might mean this is something that we do bring up. But I'll tell you why we haven't spent a lot of time on these topics. Number one, they're very well covered. Sports is an extremely well covered genre on podcasts, on platforms of all forms, streaming media, traditional media, radio, television, any form of media you can imagine. And I also find that sports is very deeply connected to local communities. So when you cover it at a global level, there's a small audience of people who care about a lot of different sports, but there's a much bigger audience of people who care about a single sport and a single team or a single athlete within a single sport. So what I'm more than happy to talk about is any particular athlete with a tremendous story that goes beyond their sport and teaches us something about the world or something about ourselves, something about leadership and excellence and greatness. So more than happy to explore the individuals who make up these sports leagues and teams and competitions around the world. And of course, pop culture, my goodness, is that well covered. I can't think of a topic that's more thoroughly covered across podcast platforms. This is everything from singers and songwriters and actors and actresses, and people who are famous for their roles in television, on theater stages, in every form of entertainment that you can imagine. And there's a whole genre, a whole ecosystem of media built around amplifying those individuals and giving them platforms to share their views. So I don't know that there's much we can add on this show. And also, I have a little bit of a pet peeve about podcasts that sort of cheaply use big name celebrities and big name sports stars to draw, one time and one time only big pop of enthusiasm for the program. And then obviously it never circles back. It never comes back around. So I don't really have an interest in doing that on this program. We really stick to the big themes, the big topics, the big issues. And while sports is among those, there's elements around it that I'm interested in, like the popularity of certain sports around the world and what that tells us about our society and what that tells us about our relationship to each other and how we express that through sports. I'm fascinated by that. And I'm personally a big sports fan of a variety of sports, especially things like American football, international soccer. I love basketball, the Olympics. There's a lot of sports that I enjoy following, but I feel like they are very, very, very well covered. That having been said, if there's an interest from our audience, if you'd like to hear a little bit more about that or my take on it or how I would interview some of those athletes and some of those figures and public figures, I'd be happy to take a shot at it and just see how it goes and see how you all respond to it. Thank you for the question, Oliver. And thank you all for listening to this program, for subscribing to my YouTube channel where I answer your listener questions, for subscribing to the podcast where we post our interviews with expert guests on big topics. And don't forget, we have a new segment that we've just started posting on YouTube in the last couple of weeks. It's called Positive Vibes, where we share positive stories from around the world that you probably missed because your feed's not giving them to you. And so that's another source that we can be for you of something that brings a smile to your face. Thank you all again for listening. Talk to you again on the next segment.